Captain Marcus Webb had seen a lot of stupid things in his 5 years with the Confederation science fleet. He had watched a Vrixian engineer try to microwave a plasma core. He had witnessed Ambassador Torquin attempt to shake hands with a species that communicated through hostile spore clouds. He had even sat through a 3-hour presentation on optimal moisture levels for interstellar bureaucracy. But this took the cake. "Gleep, buddy, you need to see this," Marcus said, not looking up from his datapad. His boots were kicked up on the console of the Darwin's Revenge, a research vessel that had seen better decades and smelled like someone had died in the ventilation system. Someone probably had. Gleep oozed closer, his slug-like body leaving a trail of anxious mucus across the floor. The molluscoid was Marcus's assigned partner, a decision made by someone with either a great sense of humor or a deep hatred of both species involved. "Is it another formal complaint about your disrespect for protocol?" Gleep asked, his eye stalks drooping with preemptive disappointment. "Better. I found the Galactic threat database." "The what?" Marcus grinned, the kind of grin that Gleep had learned meant trouble was incoming like a meteor with a grudge. Apparently, for the last 50,000 years, the Confederation has been maintaining a comprehensive catalog of dangerous fauna from every member world. So species know what to avoid, what to respect, what might eat their faces. "That sounds remarkably practical and useful," Gleep said hopefully. "It would be if they had bothered to actually research anything." Marcus scrolled through the entries. "Look at this. They finally got around to cataloging Earth about 20 years ago, right after we joined up, and the inaccuracies are absolutely chef's kiss." "Chef's what?" "Never mind. Listen to this. Canis lupus, the wolf, rated as moderate threat. Ursus arctos, the grizzly bear, significant threat. Carcharodon carcharias, great white shark, notable threat." Marcus kept scrolling, his grin widening. And then, we get to my personal favorite. He turned the datapad toward Gleep, who squinted at the entry with all the enthusiasm of someone reading their own obituary. "Mellivora capensis," Gleep read slowly. "Common name, honey badger. Classification, irrelevant. Minor nuisance, no tactical concern." He looked at Marcus with innocent confusion. "I do not understand the problem. The database seems quite thorough." Marcus started laughing, not a polite chuckle but a full body, gasping for air, tears streaming down his face kind of laugh. He laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair, catching himself on the console at the last second. "Marcus, are you having a medical emergency? Should I alert the medical bay?" No, I'm fine," Marcus wheezed, wiping his eyes. "It's just, oh man, Gleep, you have no idea what you just said. No tactical concern. Minor nuisance." He dissolved into laughter again. Gleep's eye stalk swiveled nervously, a sign he was deeply uncomfortable, which was pretty much his default state. The Confederation's database has been maintained by the galaxy's most advanced civilizations for millennia. Surely it would not contain errors of such magnitude. "Gleep, my gelatinous friend, let me tell you something about advanced civilizations. They get real comfortable in their ivory towers or crystalline spires or whatever architectural flex they're into. They stop checking their work. They assume they know everything." Marcus pulled up Earth's full entry. "And when they sent their survey drones to Earth, they clearly spent about 15 minutes scanning from orbit and called it a day. But the database rates your species, humans, as a Class 7 intelligence with notable adaptive capabilities and borderline concerning stubbornness. That seems accurate." "Oh, that part they got right. It's everything else that's the problem." Marcus stood up, stretching. "Come on, I need to show you something. This is too good to keep to myself. I am suddenly very worried about what happens next," Gleep muttered, following Marcus deeper into the ship. "As you should be, buddy. As you should be." Marcus dragged Gleep into the ship's media room, which was really just a converted storage bay with a projector that worked most of the time. He pulled up the database entry on honey badgers and set it beside a window displaying actual Earth footage. "Education time," Marcus announced, rubbing his hands together. Today's lesson: why you should never, ever trust a database compiled by species who think visiting dangerous planets is beneath them. I really must protest this waste of duty hours, Gleep said weakly, but he was already settling into a chair, his body making unfortunate squelching sounds against the synthetic material. Protested and noted. Now, observe. Marcus hit play on the first video. This is a honey badger in its natural habitat, the African savanna. Watch what happens when it encounters a pride of lions. The footage showed a small, stocky creature that looked vaguely like someone had taken a badger, a wolverine, and pure concentrated rage and mashed them together. 3 lionesses approached it, probably expecting an easy snack. The honey badger looked at them, and Marcus could have sworn it was calculating exactly how much audacity it could fit into the next 30 seconds. What followed made Gleep emit a sound like a deflating balloon. The honey badger charged, not away from the lions, at them. It latched onto one's face, twisted, and sent a full-grown lioness running like she had just remembered an urgent appointment anywhere else. The other 2 decided discretion was the better part of not having their faces rearranged. That is not a minor nuisance, Gleep whispered. Oh, we're just getting started. Marcus pulled up the next clip. This is a honey badger raiding a beehive. Now your average creature gets stung a few times and thinks, hey, maybe this isn't worth it. Not our friend here. The footage showed a honey badger climbing a tree, ripping into a hive, and eating honeycomb while thousands of bees swarmed it. The creature's face swelled up like a balloon, its eyes nearly shut from the stings. It kept eating. Why is it not dying? Gleep asked, his voice pitching higher. It should be dying, that is lethal levels of venom. Honey badgers have evolved an immunity to bee venom, snake venom, and apparently the concept of giving up. Marcus switched to another video. Speaking of snake venom, check this out. A cobra, one of Earth's deadliest serpents, struck a honey badger square in the face. The badger stumbled, looking annoyed. Then it killed the snake, ate it, took a nap to sleep off the venom, and woke up looking for its next fight. This is not possible, Gleep said, his entire body quivering. The database, it must be correct. These are isolated incidents, statistical anomalies. Gleep, my friend, there are hundreds of these videos, thousands. Honey badgers fighting jackals, raiding human military bases for food, breaking into reinforced enclosures. There's one where a badger named Stoffel escaped from a wildlife sanctuary using tools. Tools, Gleep. It used a rake, a mud ramp, and sheer determination. Marcus pulled up more entries. And it's not just honey badgers the database whiffed on. Check out their entry on hippopotamuses, rated as docile herbivore, low concern. He showed footage of a hippo charging a boat, jaws that could bite a crocodile in half, snapping shut with hydraulic force. Or how about the Australian cassowary? Database says flightless bird, minimal threat. Neglects to mention the murder clause, or the fact that they killed their own dinosaur ancestors out of spite. Each new video made Gleep smaller, as if he was trying to ooze his way into another dimension where Earth didn't exist. And we haven't even discussed geese, Marcus said casually. Geese? Gleep asked hopefully. Surely geese cannot be threatening. They are waterfowl. Marcus showed him a video of a Canada goose chasing a grown man across a parking lot, hissing like a demon possessed. They're waterfowl with rage issues and no fear. They've attacked humans, dogs, and occasionally each other just to stay sharp. Why would evolution create these things? Gleep wailed. Because Earth is what happens when a planet decides survival of the fittest needs a hard difficulty mode. Marcus leaned back in his chair. The species that compiled this database, they're from nice planets, stable ecosystems, predictable predators. They visited Earth, saw some cute monkeys and pretty birds, and figured they had the whole picture. But humans evolved there, alongside all of this. Exactly. We're the species that looked at all these murder machines and thought, you know what? Let's domesticate some of them. Let's make the wolves into dogs, let's ride the horses, let's keep the cats even though they're clearly just small tigers with better PR. Gleep was silent for a long moment, processing. Finally he spoke, his voice small and defeated. What else did the database get wrong? Marcus's grin was downright predatory. Oh, buddy, you have no idea. We've got 16,000 documented species on Earth, and I'd bet my entire salary the database screwed up at least half of them. I need to file a report, Gleep said, already oozing toward the door. The Confederation must be informed. The database must be corrected. Now you're thinking like a human, Marcus called after him. Bureaucracy and paperwork, the only weapons that work on every species. But as Gleep left, Marcus was still scrolling through the database, his smile fading into something more thoughtful. If they got honey badgers this wrong, what else had they missed? And more importantly, what happened when the rest of the galaxy found out their precious, infallible database was about as accurate as a broken clock? He had a feeling things were about to get interesting. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called exactly 48 hours after Gleep filed his report, which was 47 hours and 59 minutes faster than any bureaucratic body had ever moved in recorded history. Apparently, suggesting that the Confederation's most relied-upon database was catastrophically wrong had a way of lighting fires under even the most sluggish administrators. Marcus stood in the arrivals bay of the Council station, wearing his dress uniform which he had found wadded up in the back of his closet and smelled faintly of optimism and poor life choices. Gleep oozed beside him, somehow looking even more nervous than usual. Remember, Marcus, these are the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. Please try not to antagonize them. Gleep, when have I ever antagonized anyone? You once told Ambassador Vrel that his species mating dance looked like a firmware error. In my defense, it really did. They were escorted through corridors of impossible architecture, past species Marcus couldn't name and didn't want to, until they reached the council chamber itself. The room was a monument to excess, a vast circular space where representatives from 600 species sat in ascending tiers, all focused on the speaking floor below. Waiting for Marcus was Ambassador Klixnor, a Avixtar who looked like what would happen if you gave a peacock delusions of grandeur and a law degree. His feathers shimmered with bureaucratic superiority. Captain Webb, Klixnor said, his voice dripping with disdain. The Council has convened to address your, shall we say, colorful accusations regarding the Galactic Threat Database. A database, I must remind you, that has served the Confederation flawlessly for 50 millennia. Flawlessly is a strong word for something that thinks honey badgers are irrelevant, Marcus replied. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Several species, Marcus noted, were already pulling up the database entry on their personal devices, eye stalks and optical sensors widening in what he assumed was surprise. The database, Klixnor continued, puffing up his chest feathers, was compiled by the finest xenobiologists from the most advanced civilizations. It has been peer-reviewed, cross-referenced, and validated through rigorous scientific methodology. By scientists who never bothered visiting the planets in question, Marcus shot back. That is beside the point. Remote observation is sufficient for cataloging purposes. Remote observation told you honey badgers were a minor nuisance. Would you like to know what they actually are? The Council is aware of your presentation request. Klixnor gestured to a holographic display rising from the floor. You have 15 minutes to make your case. I suspect we will find your concerns, much like honey badgers themselves, largely irrelevant. Oh, this is going to be fun, Marcus muttered. He stepped up to the display, and the lights dimmed. Distinguished members of the Council, thank you for your time. My presentation is titled Earth, the planet your database forgot to actually research. I promise this will be educational, traumatizing, and hopefully brief. The first slide showed a honey badger in profile, looking exactly like the kind of animal that had never met a fight it didn't like. This is Mellivora capensis, rated in your database as irrelevant. Let me show you what irrelevant looks like when it's trying to eat your face. For the next 10 minutes, Marcus walked the Council through a greatest hits compilation of Earth's most underestimated fauna. The honey badger fighting off 6 lions, the hippo capsizing boats, the cassowary with its murder claws, the box jellyfish, whose venom could kill a human in minutes and was rated in the database as pretty but harmless. Council members reacted with increasing horror. A representative from Glix Prime fainted during the hippo segment, their crystalline body shattering into temporary unconsciousness. A Vrixian started making distressed whistling sounds. Somewhere in the upper tiers, someone was crying. Surely these are isolated incidents, Klixner interjected, though his feathers had lost some of their luster. Exceptional cases that do not represent the norm. Isolated? My dude, I haven't even gotten to the ocean yet. Marcus pulled up footage of a leopard seal, rated as curious and playful, dragging a penguin underwater with the casual efficiency of a serial killer. Or the stonefish, which your database calls adequately camouflaged. It's the most venomous fish on Earth, and it looks like a rock specifically to trick you into stepping on it. This is unacceptable, stammered a council member from the Quar Collective. Our survey teams assured us Earth was a standard Class 7 ecosystem. Your survey team spent 3 days in orbit and called it comprehensive research, Marcus replied. Meanwhile, Australians are out there living on a continent where everything, and I mean everything, is actively trying to kill them. The spiders are venomous, the jellyfish are venomous, the snails are venomous. Even the cute-looking platypuses have venomous spurs. The what? Klixner asked weakly. Don't worry about it. The point is, your database has a slight credibility problem. Slight? Another council member stood up, their tentacles waving frantically. You are suggesting that our most fundamental scientific resource is flawed at a systematic level. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm showing you. Marcus brought up the final slide. You've got 16,000 species from Earth cataloged. I've identified critical errors in 82% of them. Your database doesn't just have holes. It is holes with occasional facts clinging to the edges. The chamber erupted into chaos. Species were shouting in languages Marcus couldn't understand, arguing, panicking, and in one case trying to physically leave through a window that didn't open. Klixner slammed his gavel equivalent, a resonating crystal that made everyone's teeth hurt. Order. We will have order. He turned to Marcus, his expression something between fury and grudging respect. You have made your point, Captain. The Council acknowledges that perhaps our database requires revision. Revision is a start, Marcus said. But if you really want to know if I'm exaggerating, there's only one way to find out. And what is that? Klixner asked, though his tone suggested he already regretted the question. Field test. Take me and a team to verify the database entries in person. Start with something you think I'm wrong about. Very well, Klixner said, his feathers bristling with wounded pride. We will arrange an expedition to New Serengeti, where Earth fauna has been preserved through genetic reconstruction. You will demonstrate these supposed threats firsthand. Marcus felt Gleep ooze closer and whisper urgently, Marcus, this is a terrible idea. The worst, Marcus agreed cheerfully. But someone's got to do it. The Darwin's Revenge was docked at New Serengeti Station 3 days later, along with a Confederation scientific vessel that looked like someone had designed a spaceship using only the concept of excessive caution and a fear of sharp edges. The contrast was not lost on Marcus. This is still a terrible idea, Gleep said for approximately the 400th time since they had left Council space. Noted and logged, Marcus replied, checking his field equipment. Standard xenobiology kit, emergency beacon, medical supplies, and a healthy sense of impending disaster. New Serengeti was a preservation planet, created when Earth joined the Confederation and offered genetic samples of its wildlife for safekeeping. The Confederation, in their infinite wisdom, had built a massive safari preserve planet, complete with biomes ranging from African savanna to Australian outback to Amazonian rainforest. It was basically a zoo the size of a moon, and Marcus loved it. The expedition team assembled in the briefing room of the Confederation vessel, whose name translated roughly to, "We mean no harm and come in peace," which Marcus felt was tempting fate on a cosmic level. Klixner stood at the head of the table, looking like he had spent the last 3 days regretting every decision that led to this moment. Around him sat the expedition crew, 12 specialists from various species, all of whom looked at Marcus like he was a bomb with a lit fuse. The objective is simple, Klixner announced. We will locate a specimen of Mellivora capensis in the savanna sector, observe its behavior, and assess whether Captain Webb's claims have any merit. Or if I'm just a lying liar who lies, Marcus added helpfully. The database rates honey badgers as a minor nuisance easily contained with standard protocols. We will use established procedures for non-threatening fauna, document the interaction, and return to base. Marcus raised his hand. Quick question. What exactly are standard protocols for non-threatening fauna? A Thrixian scientist named Pexelar, who looked like a centipede that had attended too many academic conferences, clicked his mandibles enthusiastically. Standard containment fields, mild sedatives, and attractant pheromones. We have successfully used these methods on 600 species across 200 worlds. And how many of those worlds were Earth? Well, none, but the principles are universal. Marcus looked at Gleep, who had somehow managed to become even more translucent with anxiety. We're going to die, Gleep whispered. Probably not, Marcus whispered back. But I'm definitely recording this for the training manual. The expedition spent the next hour on what Marcus privately called the Please Don't Die orientation. He pulled up his presentation, now expanded to 30 slides, titled, So You Want to Not Get Killed by Earth Wildlife, a Beginner's Guide. The crew sat through footage of honey badgers with the enthusiasm of students watching a video on tax law. Every time Marcus highlighted a particular behavior, someone would raise a hand and explain why it wasn't actually relevant to their mission. The specimen attacking lions was clearly defending territory, said one scientist. The footage of it shrugging off snake venom is anecdotal at best, said another. I am certain our containment fields will be more than adequate, Clicksnore added. Marcus gave up around slide 18. You couldn't teach people who were convinced they already knew everything. Evolution would have to do the teaching, preferably without causing permanent injuries. They landed on New Serengeti in the early morning, when the savannah was painted in gold and the air smelled like grass and distant rain. It would have been beautiful if Marcus wasn't watching his crewmates waddle off the shuttle carrying equipment that looked designed to catch butterflies and dinner bells that would probably attract every predator in a 10-mile radius. Remind me again why I agreed to this, Marcus said to Gleep as they followed the main group. Because you have what humans call a death wish and what I call a complete lack of survival instinct. That's fair. The expedition moved through the grassland with all the stealth of a parade. Clicksnore led the way, his scanner chirping happily as it picked up biological signatures. Behind him, scientists chattered excitedly about observing authentic Earth fauna in controlled conditions. Marcus hung back, checking his own scanner and keeping an eye on the tree line. New Serengeti was safe, theoretically. The predators were monitored, the dangerous species kept in separate sectors, and emergency response teams were on standby. But here's the thing about Earth wildlife. It didn't care about theories or safety protocols or the fact that it was supposed to stay in its designated area. Earth wildlife had spent millions of years evolving to be really, really good at surviving, which usually meant being really, really good at violence. Got a signature, Clicksnore called back. 1.3 kilometers northeast. Mellivora capensis alone denned in a rocky outcropping. Perfect, Marcus muttered. Alone means angry. Denned means territorial. This is going great. The team set up their equipment in a clearing near the den, establishing a perimeter with sensors and containment fields. The plan, such as it was, involved using attractant pheromones to lure the honey badger out, then containing it in a force field for observation. Marcus looked at the setup, at the flimsy barriers and the confident scientists, and sighed. For the record, I tried to warn you. Your concerns are noted, Captain Webb, Clicksnore said primly. But I believe you will find that Confederation science is more than a match for one small mammal. Famous last words, Marcus said. Gleep oozed up beside him, leaving a trail of nervous mucus. Marcus, I have a bad feeling about this. Yeah, me too, buddy, me too. The pheromone emitters activated with a soft hum. Somewhere in the den something stirred, and Marcus had just enough time to think, here we go, before everything went sideways in the way that only Earth fauna could manage. The honey badger emerged from its den with the casual energy of someone who had woken up and immediately chosen violence. It was smaller than the expedition team expected, maybe 3 feet long and built low to the ground, all muscle and bad attitude wrapped in thick fur. Observe, Clicksnore whispered as if he was David Attenborough and not about to become a case study in hubris. Note the docile body language. The creature is clearly curious, but non-aggressive. "That's not docile," Marcus hissed. "That's calculating. It's deciding which one of you it wants to bite first." "Nonsense. Activating containment field now." The field generators hummed to life, creating a shimmering barrier of force designed to gently guide the honey badger into the observation area. The badger looked at the field, tilted its head, and then did something that would be analyzed in Confederation science journals for the next decade. It walked straight through the barrier like it was a polite suggestion. "That's not possible," Pexlar chittered, his mandibles clicking in distress. "The field specifications are rated for species twice its mass and 3 times its strength." "Yeah, but honey badgers don't care about your specifications," Marcus said, already backing away. "They don't care about anything except chaos and snacks." The honey badger surveyed the expedition team with dark, intelligent eyes. Then it charged. What happened next was less a scientific observation and more a master class in why you should always listen to the human who keeps saying this is a bad idea. 3 scientists tried to scatter, but found themselves cornered against their own equipment. The honey badger selected the slowest one, a glix named Thorian, whose crystalline body made a concerning cracking sound when the badger latched onto his leg. "Deploy sedatives," Klixnor shouted. 2 team members fired tranquilizer darts, both of which hit their target dead center. The honey badger paused, looked annoyed, and then redoubled its efforts with what Marcus could only describe as spite made manifest. "Why is the sedative not working?" someone screamed. "Because honey badgers have a metabolism that processes toxins like you process oxygen," Marcus yelled back, grabbing a panicking Gleep and hauling him toward higher ground. "Their entire evolutionary strategy is being unkillable." A scientist named Vexnor made the catastrophic mistake of trying to use a neural disruptor, a device designed to safely stun aggressive fauna. The honey badger took the blast, shook its head like it had been mildly inconvenienced, and then climbed Vexnor like a furry missile of teeth and rage. "It's destroying the equipment," Pexlar wailed as the honey badger, having successfully terrified Vexnor into unconsciousness, turned its attention to the pheromone emitters. It ripped into the machinery with claws designed to tear through termite mounds, which made short work of Confederation tech designed by engineers who thought sharp edges were a myth. Klixnor attempted to maintain some dignity, pulling out a personal shield generator rated for military combat. "Stand down, creature. I am Ambassador Klixnor of the Avixtar Dominion, and I command you to cease this behavior." The honey badger looked at him. Marcus could have sworn it was smiling. It hit the shield at a dead run, and while the barrier held, the kinetic impact sent Klixnor sprawling backward into a thorn bush. His feathers, previously magnificent, now looked like he had lost a fight with a ceiling fan. "Everyone to the shuttle," Marcus commanded, because apparently he was the only one with enough brain cells to suggest leaving. "Move, move, move." The team scrambled toward their landing site, abandoning equipment, dignity, and in one case a very expensive scanner that the honey badger immediately marked as territory. Marcus and Gleep brought up the rear, with Marcus keeping himself between the badger and his friend. "Marcus, it's following us," Gleep gasped. "Of course it's following us. We're in its territory and we annoyed it. That's like a written invitation to badger violence." Someone tripped, and Marcus had to physically drag them back to their feet while the honey badger closed the distance with horrifying speed. He could see the shuttle now, ramp lowered, crew members frantically waving them forward. "Go, go, get inside!" Marcus shoved Gleep up the ramp, then grabbed the last straggler, a young Thrixian who was sobbing in 3 different languages. The honey badger reached the shuttle just as Marcus hit the ramp controls. For one terrible moment he made eye contact with the creature, and he saw in those dark eyes something that every human instinctively recognized. Pure, undiluted. "I woke up this morning and chose violence energy." The ramp closed. The shuttle lifted off, and below them the honey badger stood in the clearing, surrounded by destroyed equipment and traumatized scientists' abandoned gear, looking absolutely unbothered by the whole affair. Inside the shuttle, the crew sat in shocked silence. Thorian's leg was bandaged, 3 people were crying, and Klixnor looked like his entire worldview had been physically assaulted and left for dead in a savanna clearing. Marcus pulled out his data pad and started recording. Expedition log, supplemental. The team encountered one specimen of Mellivora capensis under controlled conditions. The specimen demonstrated zero concern for containment fields, sedatives, neural disruptors, or the ambassador's authority. Recommend immediate database revision upgrading honey badgers from irrelevant to please never go near these things ever. Gleep oozed over, still trembling. Marcus, I owe you an apology. You tried to warn us. Hey, I get it. Sometimes you have to learn by doing. Marcus looked around at the shell-shocked expedition team, although preferably with less trauma and more keeping all your limbs. Klixner slowly stood, plucking thorns from his feathers with as much dignity as one could muster after being defeated by an animal that weighed 30 pounds. Captain Webb, I believe we owe you, and Earth's wildlife, a significant reassessment. You think? Marcus grinned. Wait until I tell you about the dolphins. Absolutely not, Gleep said firmly. I cannot handle more revelations about Earth today. But Marcus was already pulling up files, because if the galaxy was going to learn about Earth, they were going to learn the whole terrifying truth. The Galactic Council reconvened 2 weeks later, and the mood was decidedly different from the first session. For one thing, half the council members were wearing protective gear as if honey badgers might spontaneously materialize in the chamber. For another, Klixnor had lost his previous swagger, and now spoke with the haunted tone of someone who had seen the void and found it wearing fur. The Council recognizes the significant inaccuracies in the Galactic Threat Database regarding Earth fauna, Klixnor announced, his feathers still slightly disheveled. We hereby authorize a complete audit of all Earth entries and appoint Captain Marcus Webb as special consultant for the revision process. Applause rippled through the chamber, though Marcus noticed several species were clapping from a safe distance, like he might have brought a honey badger in his pocket. Thanks, I think, Marcus said. Though I should warn you, the honey badger thing is just the tip of the iceberg. We've got about 15,999 other species to review, and at least half of them are going to give you nightmares. Over the next month, Marcus worked with a rotating team of xenobiologists who approached Earth fauna with the kind of cautious terror usually reserved for black holes and tax audits. They went through the database entry by entry, and each revision was more alarming than the last. Hippopotamus, upgraded from docile herbivore to extreme threat, responsible for more human deaths annually than lions, crocodiles, and sharks combined. Recommended protocol, avoid all contact, possibly avoid the continent. Cassowary, upgraded from flightless bird to apex predator with murder feat. Note added, Australians keep these as the second most dangerous bird on their continent, which should tell you everything about Australians. Box jellyfish, upgraded from pretty but harmless to transparent nightmare with enough venom to kill 60 humans. Special warning, you cannot see them coming, and when you feel them, it is already too late. Cape buffalo, upgraded from herd animal to grudge-holding tank with horns. Database note nicknamed Black Death by locals, holds grudges for years, will actively hunt humans who wrong them. The revisions kept coming. Geese upgraded from waterfowl to psychological warfare specialists. Swans upgraded to include warning about breaking human arms. Platypus upgraded to include note about venomous spurs because of course the cute egg-laying mammal has venom. Marcus sat in his temporary office on Council Station, Gleep beside him reviewing the latest entry, when they reached the dolphins. Oh no, Gleep said, reading ahead. The database currently rates dolphins as gentle, intelligent, and friendly to humans. Yeah, that's going to need some adjustments, Marcus said, pulling up footage. Marcus, I don't know if I can handle more revelations about Earth today. Too late, buddy. Education time. Marcus showed him videos of dolphins using coordinated hunting tactics, dolphins getting high on pufferfish toxins for fun, and dolphins engaging in behavior that was decidedly not family-friendly. Why are they doing that to the fish? Gleep asked, horrified. Because dolphins are smart enough to be sociopaths, Gleep. They're like if you gave a brain to a torpedo and the torpedo decided to spend its time committing crimes. The revision read, dolphins, highly intelligent cetaceans capable of complex social behavior, sophisticated hunting strategies, and activities that violate several interstellar decency laws. Approach with caution and possibly a lawyer. 3 months into the audit, the database's Earth section had grown from a modest catalog to what was essentially a survival horror guide. The Confederation added a special warning page that appeared before anyone could access Earth's wildlife entries. Warning: the following database section contains information about fauna from Earth, a Class 7 death world whose ecosystem operates on principles of mutual violence and evolutionary spite. Contents may cause distress, nightmares, and reconsideration of xenobiology as a career path. Viewer discretion is advised. Marcus approved the message personally. The final update ceremony was held in the council chamber, with representatives from across the Confederation attending either in person or via the safest possible remote connection. Clicksnore, who had become something of a reluctant friend during the process, stood beside Marcus at the central podium. "Today we acknowledge a fundamental truth," Clicksnore announced. "The universe is vast, diverse, and occasionally terrifying in ways we did not anticipate. Earth has taught us humility, caution, and the importance of actually visiting planets before cataloging their wildlife. Also, don't pet anything without asking a human first," Marcus added. "That's just common sense." The database officially went live with its updated Earth entries at exactly 1400 hours Council Standard Time. Within minutes, the server traffic spiked as species across the galaxy logged in to see what all the fuss was about. The reaction was immediate and predictable. 17 species filed formal requests to never be assigned to Earth. 4 civilizations added Earth to their tourism blacklist. The Vrixian Empire issued a memo banning all personnel from even looking at Earth as section of the database without psychological support standing by. And somewhere on a safari preserve planet called New Serengeti, a honey badger went about its day completely unbothered by its new classification as an extreme tactical threat. Because honey badgers, as the database now correctly noted, did not care about ratings, classifications, or the opinions of anyone in the galaxy, Marcus stood in the council chamber one final time before heading back to the Darwin's Revenge, watching the reactions roll in with Gleep oozing nervously beside him. "You know what the best part is?" Marcus said, grinning at his datapad. "I am almost afraid to ask," Gleep replied. "I just got a message from the database maintenance team. They found another section that needs review." Marcus turned the screen toward Gleep. "Earth's marine life. Apparently their current entry for the mantis shrimp says it's a colorful crustacean with interesting eyes." Gleep made a sound like a balloon losing air. "No, absolutely not. I cannot handle more Earth revelations. What is wrong with a mantis shrimp? Well, they can punch with the acceleration of a .22 caliber bullet, create cavitation bubbles that reach the temperature of the sun's surface, and see colors humans can't even imagine. Oh, and they're extremely aggressive." "Of course they are," Gleep whispered. "Everything on your planet is aggressive." "Not everything. We've got some nice things. Butterflies are pretty chill." "Really?" "Yeah. Although there's this one species that drinks blood and tears, but that's more creepy than dangerous." Gleep started oozing toward the exit. "I am requesting a transfer to a species that evolved on a nice boring moon with no ecosystem whatsoever." "Come on, Gleep, where's your sense of adventure?" "It died in the savannah when a 30-pound mammal defeated 12 scientists and an ambassador." Marcus laughed, following his friend out of the chamber. Behind them, the database continued its work, now properly warning the galaxy about Earth's wildlife. Honey badgers had been upgraded from irrelevant to apex concern. The Australian section now required a mental health disclaimer, and somewhere in the pending updates queue sat entries for orcas, polar bears, and the Amazonian giant centipede. But that was future Marcus's problem. Present Marcus had done his job. He had taught the galaxy a valuable lesson about assumptions, research, and the importance of actually checking your work before declaring something irrelevant. As they walked back to the Darwin's Revenge, Gleep spoke up quietly. "Marcus, I have been meaning to ask, how did humans survive on a planet where everything is trying to kill you?" Marcus thought about it for a moment, then grinned. "I think that's the thing, Gleep. We didn't just survive, we thrived. We looked at all those murder machines and decided we were going to out-stubborn them, outthink them, and occasionally domesticate them. Humans aren't the strongest species Earth produced, or the fastest, or the most venomous. But we're persistent, adaptable, and just crazy enough to think we can win. That sounds exhausting. Yeah, but it made us really good at dealing with problems. Your species evolved on a world with predictable weather and cooperative ecosystems. You learned diplomacy and patience. We learned to dodge, improvise, and occasionally run really fast in the opposite direction. They reached the ship, and Marcus paused at the airlock looking back at the council station. The honey badger thing, that was never really about the honey badger. It was about reminding everyone that the universe is bigger and weirder than we think, and sometimes the small stuff is way more dangerous than the obvious threats. Very philosophical, Gleep said. Also, I received a message while you were talking. The council wants to discuss Earth's insect species next. Oh, this is going to be fun. Marcus, I don't think you understand what fun means. Sure I do. Fun is watching the galaxy's most advanced civilizations realize that a spider the size of a dinner plate is considered normal where I come from. Gleep made a distressed, squelching sound. I am filing for hazard pay. Probably a good idea. They boarded the Darwin's Revenge, and as the ship powered up for departure, Marcus pulled up the database one last time. The honey badger entry now displayed proudly at the top of Earth's revised catalog, complete with footage, warnings, and a note that simply read, "We told you so. Signed Captain Marcus Webb." And somewhere on New Serengeti, a honey badger was probably fighting something. It had no business fighting, winning against impossible odds and not caring one bit about its place in galactic history, because that was the thing about Earth and humans and honey badgers. They didn't need the galaxy's approval or understanding. They just kept doing what they'd always done, surviving, thriving, and occasionally making the rest of the universe question their life choices. Marcus settled into the captain's chair, feet up on the console, and smiled. The database was fixed. The galaxy was properly terrified, and he had a whole list of Earth fauna waiting to traumatize xenobiologists. It was, he decided, a pretty good day.